Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Pricing, chapter number 10, part 2. Learning objectives are: list the factors impacting upon pricing strategy development, understand the importance of cost to pricing decisions. Introduction is, I have already discussed, this price is the only activity marketers engage in that produces revenue for the firm. All other marketing activities represent expenditures, while pricing managed properly can make a major difference in the firm's revenue and income. Pricing for products and/or services must be congruent with the rest of the marketing plan. And most importantly, managing price properly also means thoroughly understanding cost as well as customers. So let's start with cost. When we discuss cost, it means we have to consider three factors. What are the allocation problems for the cost? Cost can be calculated with activity-based costing, ABC method, and learning curve pricing. Let's look into these one by one. Cost allocation problems. For marketing managers, developing reliable costs to use in pricing decision is often a frustrating process. It's not easy for the marketers to calculate the cost. Often many products are made in the same factory, and the allocation of cost by the finance department is often arbitrary. Products which are easy to manufacture and have low material cost often assume too much of the overhead of a facility, making the marketing manager's task in pricing to meet market conditions quite difficult. In this regard, marketing people are advised to study the costing process used at a particular facility in depth so that they can convincingly present their case for proper costing of particular product lines. So this type of problem can be faced by a marketing manager to allocate the cost. Cost activity based costing method, or shortly we can say ABC method. ABC allows a firm to more accurately determine what cost should be assigned to particular product lines and customers. Under ABC, managers separately keep an account of expenses required to produce individual units and batches, to design and maintain and produce, and to keep manufacturing facility running. ABC requires that cost be allocated not only to product but also to customers so that a manager can determine the cost to serve a particular customer. Cost learning curve pricing. Although the high risks associated with it have been well established, the idea of pricing down the learning curve is one which has persisted for at least 2 decades. Learning curve or experience curve theory simply states that costs decline rapidly with each doubling of output of a particular product. Experience curve effects come from three major sources such as learning, technological improvement, and economies of scale. Learning means increased efficiency because of practice and skill are finding new and better ways to do things. Technological improvement means new production processes and product changes which improve yield. Economies of scale means increased efficiency resulting from larger operations. Competition. When a firm has to set a price for a product, so definitely a firm has to look into the competition. And in the competition, a firm has to look into the strategic position of the firm, next price point, differentiating, and competitive reactions. Let's look into these factors one by one. The first one, strategic position. Needless to say, Understanding competitive offerings, including their price, is critical. To begin with, a firm must be careful about setting its prices higher than the competition. This obviously depends upon the strategic position the firm finds itself in. Should the company be a leader in its market, it probably will price higher than its competitors. In monopolistic competition situations, smaller firms will realize no benefit by attempting to price lower than the dominant competitor. Since the large firm could easily match the smaller firm's prices or even retaliate by lowering prices further, putting a much larger financial strain on the smaller firm than it would realize itself. So it's very important for a firm first to look at the strategic position of the company and then consider the price setting. Next, price point in competition. In high growth or hyper competitive markets, some firms may attempt simply to disturb the status quo. And an important tool in these markets is the race to the next price point. I repeat it again. And an important tool in these markets is the race to the next price point. While this is more common in consumer markets, there is a strong effect in B2B markets as well. In the hyper competitive situation, the learning curve has its most telling effect. Differentiating in competition. Countering direct competitive effects requires creativity to differentiate the firm's offering from its competitors. When there is the transition from a product-centric company to a solutions provider and beyond that to a customer value provider, one commodity chemical firm set up a new business unit to provide solutions selling to its customers. While expenses increased, selling, general and administrative costs rose 5%. Gross margin rose to 20% from 9%. So it is obvious that when a company has to set a differentiating strategy, then it has to keep the price in line with this differentiating strategy, because this differentiating is going to add up cost. Competitive reaction. Competitive reaction means if how competitors are going to react to your pricing strategy. So understanding your customer's current position is an important factor affecting the price, but in equally important aspects of this decision is competitor reaction. Certainly, this aspect of pricing requires experience and knowledge. A correct assessment of competitors' reaction to increasing or decreasing price may determine whether the strategy chosen by the company is the correct one. Sophisticated companies are able to include in their data warehouse information about past competitive reaction to pricing moves. This knowledge can help the manager make more informed decisions about potential competitive actions. Pricing methods. Pricing methods are closely related to pricing objectives. Firms who wish to assure short-term profits start their pricing on the basis of cost. This is often true of firms in the earlier stage of internationalization. So pricing methods can be of three types: rigid cost plus pricing, flexible cost plus pricing, dynamic incremental pricing. Let's look into these pricing methods: rigid cost plus pricing, flexible cost plus pricing, and dynamic incremental or market differentiated pricing. Rigid cost plus pricing means where the price is set simply by adding all the costs incurred for serving an international customer to the cost of the manufacturing the product plus a margin. It's a very simple way to set a price. Flexible cost plus pricing is similar to rigid cost plus pricing but allows for some price variations, such as discounts for large orders or to meet local competition. And the last one is dynamic incremental or market differentiated pricing. Assumes that fixed costs are incurred whether the firm sells outside its home market or not, so that the exporter seeks only to recover international variable costs. Pricing policies. Pricing policies include deciding upon list price and discount levels, allowance, rebates, and geographic differences, standardization versus differentiation. Pricing policies, list price and discount levels means the question of list price varies by industry. In some industries, list prices are set in such a way that no customer even pays that price. The list prices for a product line are set in order to provide various levels of discounts. Discounts can be given for volume purchases, whether cumulative or based on individual order or based on time of order. Pricing policies, allowance and rebates. Allowance and rebates are simply price reductions given to dealers or distributors to help them promote a particular manufactured product. Some firms give advertising allowance to their distributors in order to encourage them to promote their particular product or even for identifying their facilities such as showrooms or service vehicles with a particular brand name. A firm may choose to offer a trade-in allowance for older products in order to replace them with newer versions. A rebate is a fee paid to purchaser once the product is bought and installed. In pricing policies, there are geographic differences for standardization versus differentiation. A firm must decide on its geographic policies. First and foremost will be whether one standard price will be established in all markets with the final local price determined by varying import duties, currency, and local laws. And differentiating pricing allows local distributors or sale agents to set prices. Export payment methods, one can see in figure 10.5, the buyer risk has been placed on the vertical axis and the seller risk on the horizontal axis. As can be seen, cash in advance reduces the risk of the seller while increasing the risk of the buyer. Why? Consignment or open account are high risk strategies for the seller but low risk for the buyer. Open account terms include payment by check, direct debit, electronic funds transfer, or any other method that relies heavily on the buyer's eventual willingness to settle the debt after the goods have arrived. From the seller's viewpoint, this is risky since the buyer is in a foreign country and therefore enforcing the debt by legal action and would prove extremely difficult. Once a relationship of trust has been established between a buyer and a seller, and in cases where the seller has reliable representation in the importing country, open account is simple to use and may become inevitable. So it means export payment methods deals with the risk on the both sides of buyer and the seller. Buyer and seller can manage this risk, and this risk is dependent upon the trust. Okay, here is a summary for part 2 for today's lecture. Developing reliable cost for product pricing is often difficult. Experience curve pricing may be dangerous, and countering competitive price may require becoming customer value provider. Exporters generally use cost plus pricing, but more sophisticated marketers use value in use pricing. Geographic pricing allows more flexibility in meeting local conditions. Standardization versus differentiation, transfer pricing, and terms of sale are key issues in international pricing. Competitive bidding is a major feature of B2B marketing that needs an evaluation procedure to decide whether to bid. Thank you. That's all for part 2 about the pricing. Thank you.